Well, I thought it would be apropos to kind of begin with a Lenism that he often used to use as a preamble to his general oratory, if you will. And, he was never very awkward, actually, in public speaking in the least. In fact, he was pretty good. But he always used to say, as unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. And then he would go on to have some tremendous oratory. So I'd like to start at least with some of that by thanking all you guys for the honor of your presence today. It's really tremendous. For my father, who would be amazed and so happy to see everybody that's here. For my mom, who shared his life for some 70 years. For Diane and myself, who have had the blessing of both of their love, beneficence, and example, really, for our entire lives. And so, it really is a blessing to see everybody here. Thank you for that. I'd like to make a special acknowledgement here to the grandkids and their spouses, and any spouses, basically, of ours, etc., that have been involved in helping to make this thing come together, because it wasn't necessarily a very easy thing for us. I just wanted to get that out before people kind of leave and get busy doing other things. So with that, I'm going to introduce Rabbi David here, and we're going to have a little bit of Rabbi David, which I think you're going to enjoy, actually. And then I'll be back.
I know it's a celebration of life, but I want to inform everybody that I speak today on behalf of an entire congregation, certainly, but also on behalf of Cantor Lori Frank, who was absolutely prepared to sing a tribute to Len today at the request of the family, and during our choir practice with the kids, the voice went into the air. So it went to Len, I am sure, and he has it with him. But so I bring you this reading on our behalf. God of ages past and future, God of this day, as you were with our mothers and fathers, be with us as well. As you strengthen them, strengthen us. As you were their guide, be ours as well. And grant that we too may be the bearers of life, teachers of truth. Then our tradition, our lives, they will endure. For those I have loved, though now beyond my view, they have given form and quality to my being. And they live on, unfailingly feeling my heart and mind and imagination. They led me into the wide universe that I continue to inhabit. And their presence is more vital to me than their absence. What you give to me, O God, you never take away. And bounties once granted shed their radiance evermore. And may that forever be. Well, my friends, today we have come together from around the country, literally, to pay tribute to and to celebrate the life of a man possessed of such a beautiful soul. And while some in our world would gaze out upon what life had brought to the table and count that glass half empty, Len saw that very same glass and deemed it a cup overflowing. Genuinely positive and eternally optimistic, he made of his life a gift, not only as a son, but as a husband and a father, a friend, and as a Jew. At Temple, Len was a regular, a men's club steadfast. Before Adat Shalom at Temple Isaiah, Len gave of himself in the role of president and philanthropist by chairing the building committee. And for blessing of his devotion, he was named Man of the Year. He was industrious in his labors, partnering with his brother-in-law in an architectural lighting enterprise, wherein Len employed his honest gift of outreach and connection toward growing the business's sales. He was a force, and he was an energizer of souls, who was admired and loved by his employees as well as his customers for the way he took care of them and for the ethical principles that instructed everything that he did and he proposed. And yet, despite the long and copious hours which Len attended to the business, amazingly, his primary love were each of his family members, amazingly, because he was able to spend the time with them. Sue, you and he were a dynamic duo. You were perfectly suited and you were absolutely very much in love throughout the years. And as a dad, what can one say about a man who worked as he did, but never allowed for his children to feel the demands of his toil? Whose presence was full and never dismissive, whose love was abundantly evident in the joy that he took in being with each of you. Now, one individual, certainly not one individual as myself, can capture all that should be shared at a moment such as this, and fortunately, many will rise today to fulfill this honored mitzvah. Since the day of Len's passing, glorious reminiscences have flowed continually through story and recollection, and most meaningfully through the daily practice of what remains Len's living legacy. They are stories and reminiscences, acts and kindnesses that each of us must pledge, even today, not to end, but to continue with the light of one who truly showed humanity what it is to be a mensch, one who loved and is loved, one whose life, blessed as it was also a blessing. During the week of Len's passing, we read from the Torah of the dying of both Jacob and Joseph. And yet that parasha is known by the word Vayechi, and he lived. Now one can understand this phrase, and he lived, as referring to a state of being that now is over. But one can also understand that phrase as referring to a stage now begun, and he lived. Well, holding with the later, it suggests to us that our physical dying is not an end to the life force that is our enduring legacy. It is instead the beginning of something different and new. And as Len imbued his force with life-loving grace throughout his years, it is now passed to each of us to carry forward. It is for us, through our actions, our love, our example, to fill in the rest of that story. We have said fare thee well to a physical presence, but not to an eternal spirit, not of one who graced his family and blessed his community and served his country with distinction and uncompromising individuality. As we did on that sacred day, I still continue, on behalf of us all, to continue and wish you and pray you comfort, but also joy. Because what he has left you, what he has established, what he has planted in your souls is so very, very evident and so deserving of the expression of joy. And so, today we will celebrate that life. We will celebrate all that Len has meant to each of us. And I would turn it then back over to Hank to bring us to that point.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was really great. I just want to give you kind of the lie of the agenda here a little bit, let you know kind of where we're going. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find out how everybody is connected here, because I'm very interested in that, and I think many people probably are very interested in that. After that, we're going to show you a really kick-ass video. And I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get going. And after that, we're going to have my mom and my sister are going to say a couple things. And then we have a special tribute song and a slideshow to happen. And then we'll, after that, we'll have an open mic. It's going to be pretty busy. Hopefully everybody can stay and enjoy the full thing. It should actually be some fun for you, I think. So let me just start with how everybody's connected. And you're gonna have to participate, guys, okay? You're gonna have to bring it on. So first of all, I want everybody that's family, that's extended family, family by marriage, all those things, stand, please, in your seats, or where you're sitting. Everybody, I better not see anybody sitting that I recognize. Okay, so, yeah, these are all the family miscreants here, folks. And they're just absolutely awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Is there anybody, because I haven't seen everybody that's here today, is there anybody from the Integrated Ceilings family? Anybody here today from the Integrated family? No, okay. How about the LA crowd? The LA crowd, Len and Sue's, come on, LA crowd, Len and Sue's people. Oh man, yes, thank you. All right, thank you. All right. Now, San Diego, the San Diego Friends of Len and Sue, that would be the Casa folks, neighbors, friends from all walks. Don't worry if I haven't called you, we'll get around to you. Up, all the San Diego folks, up. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. We're gonna hit up my work family and Diane's work family. Anybody from any of those places? Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, guys. All friends of friends of friends, friends of family, anybody that I have not called yet. Stand up. That should be a lot of people, because not everybody's, yeah. Thank you. All right, and now I want everybody that has come from over 200 miles. Everybody that's come from over 200 miles, I want you to stand up. Everybody, come on, there are a lot of you guys. Back there. We've had people from all over the U.S., basically. All right, thank you for that. So next on the agenda, we're gonna play this video. Let me just set it up a little bit. My mother, in her infinite wisdom, commissioned this video as a legitimate videography piece in 1991. That was 27 years ago, and you're gonna see it's a Len Milner life story abbreviated that was done for his 65th birthday. I would venture to say that probably not that many people here today have seen it. And I think there's going to be a lot of fun and interesting things. The setup is there were a couple intrepid reporters. He was born in Los Angeles, one of the 1926, one of the rare LA natives that far back, and we went around town to various spots of significance in his upbringing in life, and there was some field reporting that you're going to see going on here, and it's interspersed with a lot of old pictures, a little bit of 8mm video. I mean, some fun stuff. So you may not know who all these people are, but most people will recognize somebody, or at least two somebodies. Let's put it that way. Okay. We're going to have to reboot the wonder of technology. Okay. It will work, though. All right. Okay. Let me see what I can dance around about here. We had a lot of fun making this video, actually. And I don't even think we did that many takes, either. We did this pretty extemporaneously, and it was a lot of fun to make, and it actually turned out, I think, pretty well. So,
Matt, you wanted to check it out?
I might as well comment on the fact that, you know, one of the great things about my dad, you know, he was from I mean, what I legitimately consider the greatest modern generation of individuals. Came up in the Depression, you know, that built quite a bit of character in people. And he certainly was forged by that to a large degree. And he, you know, he really paid it forward for his entire life. Okay, we're ready to go.
Now this story is made possible by a gift from the Henry Milner and Bertie Cohen Partnership and by a very generous grant from Susan B. Milner.
Dad, here we are at 1441 Bedford Drive, where you spent most of your childhood growing up.
As you can see, things have changed just a little bit. Hey, what do you think about these new digs? And, oh well, the ground is still the same. Anyway, let's go back in time, way back in time, and see what things were like at the very beginning.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white. think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Here we are, in a place you're gonna recognize, Dad. It's been a long time.
And we heard vicious rumors that you weren't supposed to graduate out of here. But
You ended up making it with honors. Now let's take a look back.
He was a famous drummer man out Chicago way. He had a boogie style no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and he was on the draft. He's in the army now, he's going early. He's a boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. They made him a bugle boy, Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he could not jam the cat. Seemed to understand because the next day the cat went out and drafted a band. And now the company just when he plays early. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. He goes and to the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar is playing with him. And the company just when he was early. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. He wants the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. And when he plays boogie woogie bugle, he was busy as a boogie B. And when he plays, he made the company jump to the bar. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy, company B. Just he does hate to the bar. He ain't going on with bass and guitar isn't with him. And the company just leaves the family. He's a boogie woogie bugle boy, company B.
It's great to be home.
it sure is. God, 12900 Rose Avenue.
Can you believe it?
I can't. GR 92223.
You know, I'm just expecting to get a few cuts from the old grill wall. Where is it?
Man.
Where is that grill wall?
I don't see it. Oh, it's gone.
You know, Dad, when we think of you, we always think of what a great family man you were.
And the wonderful memories we have of living here.
Yeah, you always had time for the family, and that's something that really, really is important to us, especially now that we can understand it a little better as family people ourselves.
That's right. And we just wanted to let you know how much we loved our childhood.
It was great. And let's go back and look at some of the memories we have from those days.
She rocked to the west, but she's the gal that I
huge company. And Dad, when we think of you, we think of Mr. Super Salesperson,
Mr. Enthusiasm,
Mr. Non-Stop,
Mr. 6-Day Work Week, and Mr. Operations. And whenever we think of the integrated story, we always remember that this is where we first got our working start too. And we took a lot of pride in the growth and flourishing of integrated ceilings as time went on. And this is only the beginning. There's more to come.
and we couldn't be more proud of your success.
Oh yeah! Way to go, Dad. Yeah. Again. I picked him up. Oh, hey, I got it. Here it is, the scat. I'd know it anywhere.
No, that's not the right kind.
It is. It's the scat from the round-horned, red-frogged, pink-tailed raccoon. I'd recognize it anywhere.
Wrong! Wrong!
Hackmanished. Ah, the lovely life of retirement. Isn't it great?
Scrubbing those kitchen floors,
Home all the time with Mom.
babysitting endless hours.
Traveling at will. Life doesn't get any better than this.
Let's go back and see what you've been doing since you retired, Dad.
Good idea.
Sunshine and happiness.
up to now?
Okay, let's go check it out.
All right, let's go. They almost nailed us. Kids are always sneaky, aren't they? You can't trust them. Well, we almost got nailed this time, but it was worth looking in to see what's been happening all these years. We love you, baby.
That was awesome. I just can't see that enough. It's hilarious. And there's a lot of deep meaning for a lot of people in it. Okay, moving right along. We're gonna hear about what Susan and Len never seem to agree on. Susan Milner time. Mom, over here.
Well, I don't know how I can top that, but anyway, I want to thank you all for coming, and also to express my wishes, not wishes, but thoughts, and on the death of Florence Grant, who should have been here, but was very sick at the time. So, as my friend Shell said, I knew Len better than anyone else. And it all began 70 years ago when he picked me up as I hitchhiked up the hill to the UCLA campus. Our relationship has always been one of respect for each other, as Len was always honest and caring. On major philosophical matters, we agreed, and on less important matters, we could agree to disagree agreeably. But on one matter, we never agreed agreeably. That was with electronic gadgets and how to work them, like iPhone, computer, TV. He would try to explain the basics of which cable went where and what went up to the iClouds. And his explanation went in circles. And when I told him after the fourth or fifth time that I didn't understand, he flew into a rage. So I stopped asking and diplomatically let him do most of the gadget manipulations. And Len always expressed exactly what he thought about things. If he approved of something I did, he'd say so. And if he didn't, he would tell me in terms that were not always politically correct. Above all, I knew that I was valued and loved. And in all ways, I'll miss him.
Oh, thanks, Mom. Diane.
Again, thank you all for being here. It's so meaningful to all of us. So there are two nouns that I think of when I think of my dad. One is a force, and one is a twinkle. So Dad was a force of energy. One of the greatest Lenisms is, go give him hell. He was the #1 cheerleader for family, friends, business colleagues, and causes he believed in. Passionate enthusiasm was worn on his sleeve and expressed openly to those around him. And as my mom and dad's really good friend, Len Sherman, would say, many times with expletives included. No matter what the situation, Dad was always there to listen, discuss, give you a dose of positivity, and send you on your way. And don't get me wrong, he'd gladly yank your chain if he thought you were out of line. And I can speak for myself, it was always a very well-deserved yank. He took pride in helping others flourish to reach their goals and dreams. He was always willing to lend a hand, whether it was financially, emotionally, or physically. He was a force of love. Dad was passionate about those he loved. Family was central in his life. His own family, the families that he adopted, and those people that adopted him. He openly expressed his feelings of genuine love, quite often with tears in his eyes. He was a sincere and authentic person. And what you saw was truly, as my mom said, an expression of what he believed. And for me, that was really refreshing. There was no guesswork involved. The second man that comes to mind with my dad is his twinkle. It was that really bright something he exuded each and every day, his enthusiasm for life. His expressive nature was often communicated with his great sense of humor. And as a kid, I can remember our family going to the movies and asking him to sit a few rows away because we were embarrassed by his very hearty laugh. And he was lighthearted and was a jokester. Here's a fun fact about my dad that some of you might not know. He loved magic. And he was so excited about learning magic, he actually took classes at the Magic Castle in Los Angeles. He performed with his top hat and coat for family and elementary school classes, and he rarely gave away his secrets. So he actually was very terrific at it. His expression of humor touched everyone who knew him, and he was just really a fun guy to hang with. So when I saw his twinkle fading in the last several years, it was an indication that Dad was leaving us. I know he wanted to stick around to be with all of us for a longer time, but his personal journey, unfortunately, has come to an end. I am forever grateful to have spent my entire lifetime loving and feeling loved by my dad. Truly a blessing. He really was my rock. He was my most ardent cheerleader. And he was one of the kindest and most generous people I have ever known. The true meaning for me of a mensch. My memories will be a true blessing, and he will live forever in my heart. And on a lighter note, I'd like to leave you with a few Lenisms, his favorite expressions that will be passed on, l'adore v'adore, from generation to generation. Jakey, don't get out your carriage, you ain't riding yet. Schleppen, Kuppen, Bonten, Whistle, Dixie. I'm not shouting, you'll hear me when I get mad. It's the culo de gato, the cat's pajamas. Never say never, never's a long time. I'm not sure, I'm positive. And of course, go give him milk.
Awesome. Totally awesome. All right. We're going to have a little musical interlude here. Stephen L. Stephen L. This is my cousin from most currently Milwaukee, who's a musical wizard. And he has a lot of creative songs about the family and other things. And he's here for a musical tribute to my dad. And you'll notice that on your tables, you have a little small piece of paper which has the chorus to the song. I sure it's better hearing people sing the chorus when it comes up, okay? You got 2 chances, all right? You got 2 chances, or more. So, pass around the papers. You may have to share. I was a little light on the copying thing. All right.
Steve Klein. And oh, it's so wonderful. We had such a good time. And let's see. Whether we liked it or not, everyone who married into this family seemed to end up in a lighting business at some point. But rather than something to do with the ceiling. And Uncle Len, is my uncle, and I learned a lot of valuable lessons from him. And he always gave me really good advice, and I appreciated it. It just sort of bubbled up into this. How's that, Michael? He wore a neat bow tie and a freshly starched shirt, dappered and crew-cut, expressive and true. He carried a binder with all that he had to an architect's office in Midtown New York. This guy had his hand out, much to Len's chagrin. The guy was supposed to spec his ceiling and put it right in. Instead of payola or a future big bet, Len said, "Jakey, get out the carriage, you ain't riding yet." All right, now comes the chorus, ready? Here he comes, teller of tales, fibber of fables, closer of sales. A living is something he'll make if he can. It's one day at a time for the ceiling salesman. If you owed him money, you could expect a call. Beware his expression that could melt a wall. We'll take such measures that will astonish you all. He'd say that to you, and you'd better pay too. Here he comes, no, yeah. Here he comes, the neighbor of his kin, Dietz and Fufa, Putty, Bumpty, and Honkapoo. You were lucky in life to have a pet name from him. You were lucky in life to have a pet name from him. Distributors fear him for the deals that he'd make. Has specifications that God cannot break. When he said that delivery was part of the plan, you'll just have to trust him, he's the ceiling salesman. Here he comes, teller of tales, fibber of fables, closer of sales. A living is something he'll make if he can. It's one day at a time for the ceiling salesman. And when he retired to the San Diego region, moving closer to family, a new life to make, talking to groups on the trails of Big Sky. Now we won't have to worry, he'll step on a snake. Here he comes, teller of tales, fibber of fables, closer of sales. A living is something he'll make if he can. It's one day at a time for the ceiling salesman. Our best advice came from the ceiling salesman.
Steve Crump. He hires out. Okay, let's see. We have a slideshow. This is my daughter. This is the beautiful and vivacious Len Milner. We're going to have a slideshow, and while we put it up, it's just going to run in the background. And I think what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to open up the mic to people that want to come up. It's not really very threatening. This doesn't look like a super threatening crowd. I would like to point out, though, that one of the things we have over here, just since we're in the vein of the ceiling business, is this framed piece over here. It's called Infinilite. It was one of the very first major products of integrated ceilings that kind of put them on the map. And that was their first, I guess you could say, big blockbuster. And they went on to do a lot of very sophisticated architectural lighting for commercial products. That was their mainline work. And I was really proud of the work that they did. They did great work and had an ethical company through all the rough and tumble nature of the business world. But that's really meaningful. You'll see actually in the slideshow, you'll see one of the big 400-pound dies that they used to use back in the day to produce these plastic extrusions and things. But it's pretty crazy. But yeah, that's what one of the products that launched them. You want to say something?
Well, I'm just going to preface. I thought this was supposed to be in the background, so okay. Of everything like going on. Sorry, we all get this.
Well, I think we can watch it in the background and listen to people speaking at the same time.
Yeah, there's a couple little videos with sound.
Oh.
Can you watch it? What the hell?
Yeah.
10 minutes and 1 second.
Can we just keep it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, just warning with the audio, it goes up and down. Oh, make it a little loud. All right.
Okay, so I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to open it up for the people brave enough to come up. We'll just start the slideshow in the background. Should I guess I could, do people just want to raise their hand and, I guess we're videoing this, so you're going to have to, come on, man. Technical difficulty. Is that low enough? Lauren, do you want to come up?
Well, we can put this down on later.
Okay, we'll put the sound on later. All right. Anybody? All right. I'm going to come over here. Please tell us who you are briefly and how you know my dad.
Alan Gardner, Los Angeles. Len and I were confirmed together. We were best men at each other's wedding. Only weddings, incidentally. And we went to the same high school, and we're in the same class, also in the ROTC at Hamilton High School. One of the things we did early on was raise homing pigeons together. We built a shed in my backyard, bought stopped to breed, and we knew that the pigeons instinctively came home to where they were born. And we trained the pigeons by letting them go with our flock when they became old enough, about 3 months. And then after they were about 6 months old, we took them to places we could reach easily by car. And then later on, when the distances got longer and longer, we sent them by someone else's car who took club pigeons up to Oakland, Redding, Eureka, and we got back about 50% of the pigeons we sent. The first thing we did, knowing that they would come home where they lived, is let out some of the pigeons we bought. And as they went off into the distance, Len said, they're going to a home that they knew. We shouldn't do that anymore. Len was a quick learner. When December 7th came along, I remember laying on the grass of our house, looking up at the sky with Len and saying, I wonder if it'll last long enough for us to get into it. It did. In 1944, I left high school a month before graduation and joined the Navy. Len graduated and was in the Army, and I visited him on my carrier on the way to Western Pacific. We had a good time together. When we were still in high school, we dated identical twins. Sue, I think you're aware of this, so I can continue. It did lead to some interesting circumstances, some of them hatched by the twins themselves. But we were good sports, and I'm not sure to this day whose idea some of these things were. We both had a good life. Looking back, if you can leave this life as Len did, leaving the world a little better than he found it when he entered, we can all do no better than that. He was a good guy. Thank you.
Who else? Anybody? Got a big room.
Yeah, we're gonna do it together. No, this is good. Okay, I'm Flo Garland, and I'm one of Leonard's first cousins. He had many first cousins.
And you did see her quite a bit in that video.
Yeah. And I lived in Brooklyn, New York. I was born there, and when my mother passed away and my brother was very sick, my father decided that we would come to California to a warmer climate. And we went through the Panama Canal. It was a 3-week trip. And waiting on the other by the dock was my wonderful Uncle Henry. And he was just wonderful. And he took us to, he drove us to our new home, to Aunt Bert and to Leonard. So there were the 6 of us living in a, well, you want to finish it? I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry.
The 6 of them lived in a 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom on the Pico Robertson district. Len and Flo became instant friends since he was 3 months older then, but shorter. He became boss. They played with small cars or Aunt Bert's carpet. They played marbles and all kinds of games. Len gave Flo his best car, a Lincoln Zephyr, and she loved it forever. Len was a special guy. We were at a Super Bowl at home, and we were sitting there, and it was almost 12, and the doorbell rang, and there's Leonard. He brought us bagels and lox. Very, very nice. Okay.
I have to tell you one other thing. Every morning we would gobble up our breakfast, a healthy breakfast that Aunt Bert would make, and then we'd go next door to Bobby Lynn's house and help feed his rabbits. And we would eat the oatmeal that the rabbits ate. We would take it by handfuls and just eat the rabbit food. And Len was my best friend for many years, and I'll miss him. But I'll have all the wonderful memories with him, and with my Aunt Bert, and with my Uncle Henry. And he was a great guy.
One other thing here. Where was this with that? There was, excuse me, where was the, over the Santa Monica Mountains? Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, it was Seminole Hot Springs. Anyways, the funny thing was this. Len always loved dogs. He always had a dog. And one day, they used to go there quite often, and it was quite a trip from where they lived. There was no freeways or anything. And he saw this dog standing there, and he walked over and started to pet it, and the dog bit him. And the guy came over and said, "You know what you just petted?" He said, "No, a coyote." That was nice. That's it.
Hi, I'm Steve Garwin, and I didn't make a lot of mistakes in my life, but I did make a few of them, and they all seem to be around Len and the boat. That sailboat of his was, I always looked forward to going out with him, but somehow I always managed to get seasick. And Len always managed to keep going further and further out. But I can always remember, you know, he'd say, "Ho, ho, this is Santa Claus calling." He was a man that always had a smile on his face, was ready to help you, and I don't think there was such a kind man. He really, really was. So he's totally going to be missed by a lot of people who he's touched his lives. Thank you.
Thank you, my cousin Steve, another cousin Steve.
I will introduce myself. My name is Leslie Klein. I am George Klein's daughter. George Klein, my father, was married to my mother, Barbara Klein, who is the sister of Susan Blitzer Milner. And let's see, Stephen Klein is my brother and my cousins. So that's it. So I brought this from my dad, who is going to be 98 in April and is unable to travel, but would very much like to have been here, but he doesn't travel anymore. So this is what he says. I remember my brother Len, first of all, because he and I had similar upbringings. We each lost our fathers at an early age and were brought up by single mothers in the Depression age. I remember Len and how he was christened Lender by me. I don't know where that came from, but that's what I called him, Lender. I remember the times we had at Light Trent, which was the precursor to Integrated. I remember Lender and Susan, all the times we had in California. I remember Lender and Susan, the times we had in Highland Park. I remember Lender and Susan when we had that trip through Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina, and Virginia, particularly the part going down the Nantahala River in a rubber raft. I believe my dad fell out. I remember our elder hostel trip to the San Juan Islands and enjoying a gigantic salmon that had been baked underground by mud and white bear, and the long story she told, which I can't remember, and that the salmon was delicious. It was shared by the entire group. I remember Lender as the brother I never had, but felt as close as if we had been. And, you know, I was trying to think of things that I could say that would be memorable, or memories that I had of Len and Suze and my cousins and just hanging out in California. And it's really hard to find words for feelings like that. And I think the thing that is most with me is the fact that Len lives on in his children who have all those qualities that everybody has spoken of love and kindness and sparkle and generosity and just warmth and menshness. And I feel blessed to know you as my cousins.
Thank you. A girlfriend, my best friend that was from Los Angeles where we met, Lorraine, lives in Maine now, and she wasn't able to be here, so she sent an audio. So I'm going to try to play it for you guys. So here goes. Let's see if it works.
41 years prior to now, I came upon my forever pal, living with her parents near a marvelous sea, he a mensch and she mensch Moby Bee. First a meaningful moment as Man of the Year, at Temple Isaiah there was great cheer. There was a meandering land that came from the sky and clamored in a miniature manner, with mountains and bridges and of course grass. This track found its way round and round again fast. As a member of a castle, the mensch fed us all, and then poof, he was a babysitter on call. Meaningful memories of motivating my art and miraculously making me laugh at a fart. This mensch was a man of wisdom and stench, and if something broke, he'd run get his wrench. He had a magical freezer filled with Sue's sweet delights. It housed a squirrel last seen in a car's headlights. Flattened and frozen, his tail in tight curls, he frightened the appetite out of us girls. Docent, so decent, who did a mountain of good, he quickly adapted to a new nature reserve hood. I was incredibly blessed the day Dee walked into my life, and doubly so because of the mensch and his wife. This mensch was there for me when no one else was, for no other reason than just because. Len will be missed by many and loved by most. He lived his life as a cheerful host, a man among men, a mentor, a friend. 5 days before we saw him no more, a visual walk through the space that he hoped I would score, a tour from his bed for his delight. He grinned and awed at the place at first sight. He mentioned that he hoped that I would continue to draw and how much he liked the work that he saw. As I humbly raise a glass of snow and ice, I think lovingly of Len, not once, but twice. And I will always remember him smiling on my device and certainly reflect on all his good advice. A twinkle, a wink, a naughty smirk, Len left his mark on the sky and the earth. I eulogize him in rhythm and rhyme to solidify his smile in time. I am not a poet and thankfully not a mime, but having Len in my life has been truly sublime.
Very well. Anybody else? Anybody from the Netherlands out here? No? Huh? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. I am named Sang. I come from Laos. There's Len and Sue Milners, be sponsors. All for our family came here in the United States in 1980. And that's where we met, Sue and Len. And thank you, we miss him. He's still looking at us, always. Hope our family. And now he taught me to be business. He kicked my butt in the room and everything. I worked with him since the integrate ceiling, drop ceiling in Los Angeles. Now I'm grateful. He looked at us, whole family, my sister, my young me. Now I'm be my own company because of him. He pushed me hard to be strong, how to live in the world. Now I'm the owner of the company, security company in half United States. Work for the governments and individual. But thank you a lot to be part of Hank or Milner family. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Joan Fish, and I just want to bring things up to date to San Diego. When I first arrived in San Diego, the Milners did too, and we became very fast friends. We've been in constant contact. We go out together. We went to the theater together, and we went to dinner together, and I feel as though I'm part of the Milner family. So I just want to say I will miss Len, but he's made my life in San Diego much richer, and Sue too. So we're still fast connected, and I love them both. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Rosenthal. I am married to my wonderful wife, Ruth, who was Len's first cousin. And we live in New York City, so obviously didn't have that much contact with him. But when we did, I really loved the man. We had sailing in common. He had a 19-foot, I think it was an O'Day Mariner, and I was jealous because I had a 17-foot boat.
It was 21 feet.
Well, whatever. fine. And we went out sailing with him on it once, but I have one wonderful memory of when we used to have a lot of fun on the phone together, talking. And one time something happened, I was at home alone, and something happened, and it just really ticked me off. I was in a terrible mood, and the phone rang, and I picked it up and said, "Hello." He said, "This is Santa Claus." I said, "Listen, Santa Claus, I don't have time for this kind of crap. Go back to the North Pole." And I hung up. I didn't realize it was he. So he called back right away, and I said, "This is Len, it's Len." And that's one of the things I remember about him. But what I remember most is I really loved him. He was such a wonderful guy. Thank you.
I'm Natalie White. I am part of the adjunct family through my friend Les Klein here. And I actually have two messages to deliver. One is from Jeff Browner, who is a longtime family friend of the Milners. And then I have one for myself. And Jeff says, "I wish I could be here in person, but I'm going to give you a few brief personal memories about Len. The first is that Len and Integrated Ceilings had purchased a sailboat in order to wine and dine and sail with their clients, and Len was trying to get me to help him prepare the boat for departure from the marina in Los Angeles. He was trying to get me to deal with the intricacies of the boat, but at one point, in the middle of the harbor, I could hear him yelling to me, 'Jeffrey, grab the winch, the winch.'" Obviously, this made quite a stir among other sailors. Around the time of Pesach or Yom Kippur, and Len was doing overtime at Temple Isaiah, I was being goofy with Len, and he said to me, and I said to him, "Len, if I ever tie the knot, I promise you that I'll marry a Jewish gal." Len came running over to me with tears in his eyes, and he said, "Jeff, that's the most meaningful thing anyone has ever said to me." And if you knew Jeff, you'd know that. Last story, the grand finale, was at Bud's 60th birthday party, and the Night Blooming Jasmines were performing in Bud's backyard on Saltaire. During a musical solo called "Darkness on the Delta," the band leader and prime jokester, Chet Yeager, said, "Hey, no dirty dancing in the back corner, George Klein and Len Milner." Everyone stopped to see what was going on. The funniest part was when Len yelled back at him with, "No way, no way." And Jeff concluded this by saying, "To this day, Len remains a great friend, like a family member to me. He was a mensch and a great spirit." So that's from Jeff. Now I have my own set of memories about Len and Sue. And many might say that he was really a man of great bluster and a feisty exterior, but I always knew him as having a lot of marshmallow insides. I had the privilege of knowing a loyal, loving, savvy, kind man, and I wanted to share this particular memory. In 2000, Len and Sue would occasionally call me and see how I was doing, because I was having a hard time. I was a recent graduate and on my way to becoming a therapist, and my life felt fairly stressful. The Milners invited me to spend one weekend in San Diego, and because I knew I needed a break, I decided to come. It was just the three of us, plus Max the dog. And Sue made one of her delicious dinners, and we chatted into the night. The next morning, Sue made one of her delicious breakfasts, and Len and I sat in the backyard together. He asked me a lot of questions about my newly developing psychotherapy practice, who my clients might be, how I was going to build my practice, what my financials might look like, and so on and so forth, as George Klein would say. I felt very comfortable talking with him and knew that Len was concerned about my new life, but never once did I feel intrusive or over the top. He made some excellent suggestions, among them that I might consider moving to San Diego, where he would set me up with a bunch of people he knew who needed therapy. He never mentioned any names. But even though he came across as humorous to me, I knew that he truly wanted to help. And then, to my surprise, he proposed that I take a loan from him, if I wanted, that I could pay back at any point interest-free. That was the part that brought tears to my eyes. That as a family member, he wanted me to know I'd be taken care of. Of course, I declined his offer, but it was one of the most gracious, loving gestures I've ever received. So, lender, rest in peace, you decent mensch of a man, and know that you will be remembered always with great love and affection, and laughter too.
My name is Judy Rice, and unless Anita is here somewhere, and I don't see her jumping, I'm the sole representative from Temple Isaiah in West Los Angeles. Since 1973, the Milners have been very inclusive. We had a Havara, which is a group of 10 to 14 families who came together from the temple to celebrate Jewish holidays, to celebrate home life, goodness, sad times, everything together. And the Milners were essential starters, as I was at that point in my life. They became a loving set of extra grandparents to my son, who is now 43 years old, who sends you great hugs and love. I think one of his goals in life was to scare the living daylights out of me, and he always succeeded. He would terrorize me when we would go to the Palisades for Havara, that the snakes were coming up the hills around the pool to get me, and I was absolutely paralyzed with fear. I insisted on coming in through the garage. I could not deal with snakes. And then, of course, he comes down here to live, and he says, hey, you want to go for a walk? And I said, no. Another one of his great joys in life was to take apart the electric system in my house. We would have Havara for Hanukkah at your house or at my house. This was 20, 30, sometimes 35 people gathering together for potato latkes. So at my house, we had 5 electric frying pans going on the counter, and of course blew the entire system in the house. And he jumped with joy, ran out to the garage, fiddled around, ran outside to the power box, and he loved it. He just loved doing this and sort of yelling at me a little bit. He didn't yell at you when it was at my house. He yelled at you at your house. We were putting pieces there. He also, you talk about that sailboat. It must have been 1973, 74. He invited me and my then husband to go sailing in Marina del Rey and go out in the sailboat. I said, okay, and he goes, never mind the get on the boat. And he must have done everything in his power to get me seasick, and he succeeded, and he took great joy in doing these things. There was this maniacal twist to him sometimes. He was very kind, very generous, very loving with Sue. They welcomed my parents. Len and my dad enjoyed sharing war stories. My dad was a veteran from World War II also, and they enjoyed, and we as women of our Havara loved getting together and going to lunch together. But Len totally enjoyed being with my child as he was growing up, and he was one of the glue factors of brotherhood at Temple Isaiah. And in those days, we had the Israel Day in Rancho Park, and the Brotherhood would stand in back and sell hot dogs and cook them, and he liked to be in charge. We had a flying lox box, and he liked to for Super Bowl Sunday. He did all these things, but this maniacal thing was still going on in his mind, I swear. But the family were very generous to us. When my son was bar mitzvah and I was recovering from major surgery, they gifted my son and myself with a trip to Hawaii that you had won, and we went with tears in my eyes. I remember Len laughing at his nastiness towards me, but treasuring it at the same time. He's missed, he's personified by his children and his grandchildren, and we're all blessed that you've been part of our lives. We love you very much.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Mark Malbigot. I'm the president of the men's club here at Temple of Adat, Shalom, and I feel like we need to have some equal time here for current, more recent events with Len. I met Len about 12 years ago when he was standing in the kitchen. I had just taken over running the kitchen for a men's club brunches once a month for Sundays. And so Len would take care of the lox. That's all he did the whole time I was here for 12 years in charge of the kitchen. He took care of the lox. So he and one other person, who unfortunately just left a little while ago, the lox guys, the lox men. And so that's how I know Len. 12 years in the corner, cutting lox and serving up for everyone else. The other thing I remember about Len is that he always sat down at the table next to me, right over there, because we served the food, the tables were right here. So we were the closest ones to the food. I mean, that's why I sat there. And I thought Len may have sat there because he wanted to sit next to me, but I think he wanted to sit closer to the food also. Because he had to be one of the first ones to get there, but since he had the walker, I always ran up ahead of him. And I'm still going to miss Len standing over in the corner, cutting up the lox.
Good afternoon. My name is John Bergquist. I've known Uncle Henry, as we now call him, probably since 1973, something like that. Mr. Milner, as I always called him, probably since 1974, which comes out to about 44 years, and that leaves me considerably behind many of his friends and family here. But it was interesting. My friendship with Hank has become obviously a long-term one, and we're great friends. We were roommates for many years. And when you know the Milners, you become part of the Milner family, and it's become sort of a multi-generational relationship with your dad, Len, you, your lovely wife Mary, your sister, you know your sister's wife, your kids, you know my kids. The Milners even came to my wedding in 1986, the whole family. There was a Milner table, which was sort of a sub-party at that wedding. I got to go to the Milner condo in the Palisades a few times. In fact, in 1976, I watched over it as you guys took off for the East Coast for the 200th birthday of the country. A long time ago. And of course, like everyone else that knows Len, he became a business counselor to me. When I went to graduate school, I was discussing my field study with him, and I ended up quoting him to Citicorp in 1979 as part of my closing statement. So that was a long time ago, but I did. And obviously I saw him when he came to my wedding, and then various other times. And One of the last significant times was at his granddaughter's bat mitzvah, Lauren. And we talked about, by that time I'd both been in, worked at companies, and at that time I'd started my own company. And I was thinking about hiring my first employee, which is a little different than hiring somebody when you work for a big company. That's easy to take care of. But when you're hiring your own person for your own company, you're responsible for them. They, they're casting their lot with you. They're going to trust you to make sure they get paid, and that their family's going to be supported. And so that was something we talked about, because we were both, by that time, both entrepreneurs. We had another bond. So it was, I'm grateful for our relationship, and certainly I benefited from that and getting to know Len and his family, because they welcomed me, and it's been a great relationship. Thank you all.
Anybody else? By the way, I should probably say something about the seed packets on your tables. We haven't said anything about that yet, but you're welcome to take them and read why we put them there, and plant them or throw them out into your favorite breeding ground for beautiful flowers, and germinate them and have them grow into a beautiful legacy of my father. So take them. It's the prime directive. Anybody else? Oh, Stephen Klein.
I'm an old man now, but there was a time that Uncle Len was a particular prankster. I don't know if anybody's ever been pranked by Uncle Len, but let me tell you something. Hank and I experienced it together. One late after, it was a morning actually, came to work at Integrated Ceilings. And Uncle Len thought it would be a great idea if we would jack up the paint in the paint pit. And then Uncle Len said, we're gonna go to the boat after you're all done. So much to the horror of my mother and Aunt Susan, they rented a jackhammer with a compressor unit. And we went at it from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, jackhammering paint out of the paint pit. But before it was time to go to the boat, we were psyched about it because it was a really hot day. And so after we got in the car and we started to drive to the marina, but instead of the boat being in the water, it was jacked up in dry dock, and the rest of the afternoon we spent sanding barnacles off the bottom of the boat. It nearly killed us both.
It wasn't all roses, folks. It wasn't all roses. Anybody else? Is there anybody else? No. Okay. We're kind of running a little long in the tooth. Oh, somebody over? Where? Ah.
After all that laughing, I hope I can do this. So it has been mentioned that if you are part of, if you know someone in the Milner family, you're in the family. I mean, there's no question, no doubt, you're there. And I'm a friend of Dee Dee, and we met in college, and we were driving to Sacramento to an event, and we were taking a couple other students with us. We were all students. And Dee Dee's dad and Len said, "Don't disturb the driver."
That was our prime directive and cause for great chuckles all the way up, that she was not to disturb the driver because I was driving. And Sue and Len were inseparable always, of course, and they came to visit us and support us in many different things. And when they were there, Len always had to go around and screw the knobs on to make sure that they were tight, in the kitchen, because we, of course, didn't care. And whatever he could find to do to fix, he was a happy camper. And I think that just being a part of that incredible family has been a great joy for me and a great gift. And I'm sure you all have experienced that, so thank you.
I know. We have food, by the way. Food.
Good transition. So, Len Smile. I'm Barbara Birnbaum. Temple met Len as the children were little. Diane, Risa and Jenna were in my class at the time, so I met Grandpa right that way. But avocado toast is what I want to say. Because I think before it was popular, I think it feels like about 10 years ago at least, he won a whole tray of avocados from some raffle that we were having. And I'm like, what do you do with all those? Oh yeah, I have avocado on toast every single day. The next thing you know, it's like the hottest thing. He was definitely ahead of his time there. And so, yeah, food is also...
Yeah, we grew up on that, avocado toast. To this day, it's awesome. Okay. Anybody else? No? Last chance. Okay.
Wait.
Oh. Thank you. My name is Ryan. I am Hank Milner's son and Leonard Milner's grandson. Yeah. So, I tried to remember a specific story of my grandfather, and I kind of just boiled it down to just the big impact that I think he had on my life, and that was one of high energy and tremendous support. He had kind of a, I remember he'd always kind of ask me like how things were going with school or work or whatever, and I kind of just give him the lowdown, and he'd respond with this kind of great, kind of like Tony the Tiger-esque enthusiasm, and it would always sort of stick with me and kind of give me this really positive affirmation, and that was a real constant throughout my life, having him in it. From my grandma as well. Both tremendous pillars of support for my sister and I, and he's left behind an incredible legacy, which my dad and my aunt are very much keeping alive and have instilled in all of us, the children, the cousins, who are all here today. And I feel very fortunate to be a part of this family, and it's tremendously breathtaking and overpowering to see the legacy in person with all of you here. So thank you, and thank you to my grandma and my dad and my aunt for putting together a really amazing afternoon. Okay. Well, I think I'll just wrap it up. Everybody can stay and chat, and I'd like to thank again Rabbi David. Awesome, seriously. He helped us a lot in many ways. I just want to say, in somewhat of a traditional manner, that his life really doesn't need to be blessed, I don't think, but his life is literally a blessing. And it's been a blessing to the family and everyone that knew him and that was affected by his life in any way. And it's a blessing in the manner that it's paying itself forward. And I think what he would want is that you also become a blessing to other people. And that when you think of him, and you think of his memory and his legacy, that it prompts you to want to give it away to somebody else. And I think that's it's probably the most meaningful thing that I think to take away from this whole thing. And he did what he did, he was what he was, but his biggest gift was to pay it forward, essentially. And, that's really meaningful, I know, to my sister and I. And my mom, of course, is in the same way. And so they've both been incredibly instrumental in enriching our lives and paying it forward, trying to enrich everybody that they touch and be very positive. And I hope that when you leave and when you think of him in the future, that you think about paying it forward, just like he did. So, again, we can't thank everybody enough for coming. It's an honor for us to have you here. And with that, I'll just say, be careful out there if it's wet. Have a great day. And I'm just sucking it up because we see people that we don't see often. We see a lot of people that are meaningful to us, whether, we've only known you for a short time, maybe never met you for the first time, or, look forward to seeing you more in the future. But, he's still paying dividends. I look around, this is a Len dividend right here. That's the way I look at it. And, I think we'll be cashing these for a while. So, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the Temple family for hosting us. It was really nice. And, don't be strangers. Reach out if you want. My mom, of course, is around, and she's still a tiger. So she's game, bring it on. And certainly all the kids and grandkids. The kids and grandkids, cousins, everybody's still game. And so we hope that you'll keep in contact. And thank you for coming.